Hi everyone. No, wait, that's a stupid intonation. Okay, I don't know.
COVID has made people realise how much they enjoy live music a lot more. Even though London is so diverse, I feel like the representation isn't as good as it should be. I think everyone's really struggling at the moment to get their projects off the ground, and if it is off the ground, then you need to really struggle to maintain it. And it was just like a really weird realisation for me to make, because it's like one of those things where once you start noticing it, you have trouble forgetting it, that you've noticed it. Live music in London is becoming quite unaffordable. I mean, everything in London is. But
what is your artist ick?
With the lick fee, I'm waiting for you to pull up and come and lick me. It's been a minute since I let you come and stick me. You know I always leave the situation sticky. Yo, I ain't a pick me, but tonight I'm hoping that you gonna pick me. I'm a grown ass woman, not a pick me. Got good knees, I'm trying to ride it like a 6 speed. Yo, now with the lick fee, when the time I got your girl.
Hi everybody, welcome back to our up-and-coming podcast where we talk all things electronic music with our amazing guests who've been there and seen it all. It's me, Nastia, and Luke, your up-and-coming hosts, and our guest today is...
Talia.
Yes! So Talia, tell us a bit about yourself, your background, who are you, how you related to music, what you like, what you don't like, everything.
There's a lot of questions. But just to give you kind of an idea of who I am the founder of Femmestival, which is an all-female music festival, which has recently branched out into smaller concerts, and that's going on all around London. I'll probably get into that a little bit more later on, but just to give you an idea of how I got here, essentially a few years ago, I think 2.5 years ago now or more, I started out as a music writer for my university's student magazine. And I was just reviewing gigs all the time, interviewing loads of different artists. And I came to realize, I think, after going maybe to my 100th gig, that it didn't seem like an environment in which I was seeing a lot of women. I was not seeing a lot of women performing even, and I also wasn't seeing a lot of women behind the scenes. I remember being on press tents at festivals and thinking to myself, not only am I the youngest person here, but I'm one of the only female people here. And it was just a really weird realization for me to make, because it's one of those things where once you start noticing it, you have trouble forgetting it, that you've noticed it. After that, I sort of started to think, I've been reviewing all these gigs. How could I improve on them if I was to do my own series? And that gave me the idea to do a series of gigs, essentially where women would be at the forefront. I'd design it with them in mind. That's how Femmestival came to be.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
It sounds very good. It's actually quite good for us after having so many men in our podcast to finally have someone that's not straight white man.
Yeah, it's honestly it's a big issue. Even especially here in Cambridge, the music scene is quite small and everybody knows everybody. And it's been really challenging to find guests who are not just white straight males, because it's most of, DJs, most of promoters, most of A&Rs here are, still it's not as diverse as we would love it, to see. So yeah, you definitely have a point here.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because in London, obviously, I've always lived in London my whole life. So my impression of the music industry is solely based on London. And I feel even though London is so diverse, I feel the representation isn't as good as it should be. I've read that 52% of London's population is women. So with over half being women, you would expect to see more in the music industry. And I do think that it's changing a little bit, but I don't think it's as good as we'd like, even in London. So, that's really interesting to know about Cambridge.
So how has the scene evolved in London since you've lived there your entire life? What have you seen change over the years that you found interesting?
Yeah, in terms of me going to live music, because I only started I would say in the last 3 years, properly taking it seriously and going regularly, I wouldn't say I've seen too much change in that short period of time. But the one person I can compare it to is my dad's experience, because he went to a lot of concerts when he was younger, and he's also always lived in London. And one thing that has changed very much that I've noticed is the economy of live music and the affordability of it, not just like for artists, but also like promoters and like grassroots. Like, I think everyone's really struggling at the moment to get their projects off the ground. And if it is off the ground, then you need to really struggle to maintain it. I was actually talking to an artist the other day called Tash. Shout out to Tash. And she is a really cool female artist. And she basically said, like, a couple of years ago, I think just after COVID, she hired out this venue in London. It's quite a popular venue. I won't name it. But yeah, and that cost her quite a reasonable amount. And she made quite a large profit from that show because like the fees were still quite low to like book venues, but right now like it's basically impossible to make a profit from a show. Like you can have the best margins ever and it will still be really difficult to afford everything and be able, obviously, like one of my main things doing an event that is centered around women is to pay them fairly for their work and like really value them as creatives, which I don't think happens all the time. And like it can be difficult to balance that like moral side of things with having to like maintain it from a business perspective. So yeah, that's something that I think has changed because I definitely don't think that financial barrier to music was as pronounced a few years ago compared to now.
So would you say like COVID hasn't helped and the economic crisis that we're in now either?
I don't think so. I think that COVID has made, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like I was not promoting gigs before COVID. So my experience of this is quite limited, but there are two things I would say. I would say that COVID has made people realize how much they enjoy live music a lot more. Like when people were like going inside their house and they were going crazy, they were like, oh, I want to go to a gig. So it has like in people's minds, I think, kind of flipped that switch and made people think, you know, there's this event going on tonight or later this week and I should go because it's nice to be around people. Like I think people were more encouraged to not take that for granted, especially in somewhere like London where it's all kind of going on all the time. But at the same time, like it's just changed consumer behavior. Like something that a lot of people across the events industry have noticed is that people will not buy tickets to an event until like 3 days before, which is really, really stressful. As a grassroots promoter, yeah, it can be very stressful, like just to know how many people are going to come and like that you're not going to be greeted with an empty room. Like I've promoted a lot of gigs which have sold out in like the final week, which is obviously great that they've eventually sold out, but that wasn't happening pre-COVID. Like people were more likely to buy in advance, but I guess it changed people's mindsets about events, and a lot of events are just being cancelled just because of that like financial aspect of it. Like if people can't predict how many people are going to buy tickets, they might decide that it's just better to cancel the event and not sink all their money into it before it's the point of no return. So yeah, I think it has made people more appreciative of live music, and at the same time it has made people more wary of buying tickets, which has put financial pressure on a lot of promoters. So yeah.
It's a very big issue. And I heard also with festivals, because it's such a large scale event, like a 3-day, 5-day festivals, they really ask people to buy tickets in advance, like because it's a whole year you're planning a festival. Like you really need to know how many people are going to show up. So how did you experience it with Femmestival? Was it like a big issue for you, or how did you account for numbers and everything?
I think, yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that for me, it was a bit of a challenge because I received a grant from Youth Music, their Next Gen Fund, to put on the festival. But I only received the grant money because of the nature of the grant and when I applied for it. I only received the money in June 2023. And because the grant period is only 1 year long, I had to decide whether I wanted to do it before the academic year started or after the academic year started, because a festival is kind of a big undertaking to do while you're still doing a degree like I am. And I eventually came to terms with the fact, like, I was like, it's better to do it now while it's still fresh in my mind and I've got all these ideas, rather than wait until like next year and then it kind of gets muddled with my third year bachelor's. So, but that meant I had between June and October to plan this festival, which is June, July, August, September, like 4 full months, I would say, to really get everything planned out, which was not as much time as I would have liked to be able to market it. And obviously, I don't think it's an ideal timeline for anything. I think I made the best of it. Like, I did what I could. Obviously, I think if I had more time, I would have liked to really make the marketing a bit more consistent and really encourage people to like buy into it early. And but I do think that given the time that I had, it wasn't possible, like in the same way as maybe like Reading, like or Glastonbury, to encourage people to buy tickets early. Because my early was already quite late, so it was a bit of a challenge. I think the major challenge I found was trying to get people to understand what I was putting on without there being a previous example of it, because I was founding it from scratch. So I had no like photos, no like direct primary like assets that I could send people. I basically just said, this is an idea. And I had to convince people to buy tickets off an idea. And I feel like anyone that you ask who has founded something like that will probably comment on that kind of struggle. Like, I spoke to one of the co-founders of Dialed In Festival recently, and Provat, and he's the founder of Daytimers as well. And he basically said, like when you don't have like that visual for what your event is going to look like, it's really hard to get people to actively like buy into it and say, yeah, I want to come to that. So that was, I think, the main challenge of like the ticketing process. And I think I convinced people maybe through the attitude that I went at it with. Like, I wanted it to be a very personable thing and very like friendly and grassroots and make people feel really welcome. And I think people were more encouraged to buy a ticket after they saw like the brand tone, I guess I would say, more than if I didn't have any photos to stick in front of them, so I had to get a bit more creative. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, but now you do.
That was very, very interesting. So I guess let's delve deeper into the Femmestival. So you have 4 months, which is not a lot. Must have been very, very stressful. So what's more like the story on leading up and like during the festival and after? What would that be for in like the point of view of the creator, the owner?
So basically, before I received confirmation that I would have the funding. Like, I got my congratulations email in April. So even though I didn't have the financial side of things, like the money, I still was aware that the project was going to take place. So I tried to get as much groundwork done that didn't require me to spend any money. So I created the Instagram account and I started putting like call outs, just some really like brief call outs for artists. Like, if anyone happened to see it and was interested, I started following people from there, and it kind of, because I had like a tagline and a name at this point, people were sort of like paying a little bit of attention to it. And I also designed the website, all of the kind of like marketing materials I was very keen to design as early as possible. So then when it got later on, I didn't have to worry about those things. So, and I definitely spent a lot of time on the website, like getting it to look how I wanted. So that was sort of between April and June, like the very, very early stages. And then when the money came through, I was able to like start actually putting things in place. So I was able to do a proper budget, print anything that needed printing, like flyers. I don't know, I'm quite a traditional like flyer person. I like the idea of like putting flyers around, and like I do pay attention to them when I'm like walking around. So I wanted to do that kind of print side of things, like banners, flyers, all these sort of things. And also like getting a lineup together, like I was able to properly divide the money between where I wanted it to go. And like June was essentially me getting however much and looking at it and really thinking, how can I make the most of this? Because it wasn't really, I mean, like, to be transparent, like the amount that I received from Youth Music, so they give you a little bit for yourself, like, so you can like fund yourself essentially while you're taking the time out from whatever you're doing to do the project. And the amount they gave me for the project itself was 1,950 to do everything with. So it was like, basically like, how can I make this amount of money, which was like obviously very generous for Youth Music, and I appreciate them so much. But it's not like objectively, it's not a big amount of money to put on a festival with. So
Definitely not.
so I was like trying to think, how can I make this amount go as far as possible? And yeah, I think, yeah, there were some decisions I made and I was kind of like finding my feet a lot. And I think it's important. It was really helpful to have the grant so I could make those, like make mistakes, I guess. Like I think that making mistakes is like not really talked about a lot in the music industry. I think it's very unforgiving. And I think that especially if your own money is at stake, like you can be very nervous to try new things because you don't know if it's going to go well and you don't know if you're going to like lose everything. But yeah, essentially, I spent like a few months just like I spent about a month just planning. Like I was writing down who I wanted on the lineup, all the admin, like sending emails out. Like it was very, very like the amount of emails I sent, I don't even want to know. Like, so yeah, that was how my June looked. So like while the weather was so sunny and the sky was blue outside, I was inside sending emails. Yeah, and then like by July, I'd kind of got a lineup in place, and I'd finished sort of discussing with the venue how I really wanted it to look. And although I think most of the admin was out of the way, and like it's kind of like my favorite and my least favorite part of events, because like once you get all of the lineup out of the way and you know what the event is going to look like, you know what the event is going to look like, you have to sell the tickets. So it was sort of like now all the groundwork is done, which is like a relief. But now I have 2 months to get as many people on board with this event that's never happened before as possible. And that was like challenging. Like I really wanted to get, I think the reason that I divided the timeline in that way, like get the branding done first and then the admin and then devote as much time as possible to marketing, was just because I really wanted to focus on it. Like I feel like sometimes with promoters, I've seen that marketing an event thoroughly can sometimes be an afterthought. Like you'll just be like, oh yeah, we've got these cool artists on the lineup, like come along, and then you won't say anything about it for a month, and then like no one comes and you're like, why has no one turned up? So I really didn't want to do something. I wanted the artists to feel like I was pushing it as much as possible. I wanted the managers to feel confident that people were going to come and watch their sets and they were going to get some good promo out of it, because of course like if artists or DJs perform, they will take their own photos for their own socials. So you want the event to be a success, not just from a financial perspective for me as a promoter, but also because I wanted to give them as much exposure as possible. Like that was the whole idea of the event, like to give female artists, DJs, professionals like exposure. So I was very, very keen for the marketing to be my main focus. So that is pretty much how my 4 months was divided. And then October 1st, there it was. It was kind of surreal, to be honest.
So for selling tickets, because I'm going to festival this summer and they did like a strategy where like early tickets were cheaper and then they got expensive the closer they got. Did you implement any of that to try and sell? How did it work? How did it work well?
Initially, I was interested in doing an early bird ticket model and then raising prices later on. But I was finding that, I was sort of like having this thought to myself that live music in London is becoming quite unaffordable. I mean, everything in London is. But I feel like gone are the days kind of where you can pay like a little bit of money to go to a gig. Like you have to, like when you have a night out, you're going to expect to spend money on the ticket. You're going to spend money probably on drinks and on transport. And it just becomes a very expensive process to just go out and see someone like perform. And because again, like my focus was on exposure for the artists and just like building the brand, I thought to myself, like I could raise prices, but I really want as many people to access this event as possible, at least for the first one that I'm ever doing. So I just kept the early bird ticket prices until the end of the ticket sale period, because initially I was going to raise them, but then I thought, I want it to be accessible. And yeah, so it was £12 to go.
That's pretty good, actually. Oh, okay. So October comes. How is the festival?
Yeah, it was good. I think it went well. And yeah, it was really, like I said, it was a bit surreal, because when you plan any event, I'm sure you guys will be familiar as well. Like when you plan something and then it comes to life in front of you, like it's a very like strange feeling to think, I did that. Like, I am the reason that everyone in this room is here right now. Like, that was something that crossed my mind. Like, because I was seeing a lot of like friends together, like talking, and a lot of people like dancing, and we even got a Facebook review. Shout out to Nova May. This is someone who I don't even know. And she had booked a ticket to the festival, and afterwards left a Facebook review, which I completely did not expect. I just got a notification for it one morning, I think a couple of days after. And it was like, I had such an amazing time. I discovered so many great female artists, and I can't wait to come to the next one. And I was like, wow, like that wouldn't have happened. Like, she has discovered these artists and had a good time because I set this festival up. So that kind of like went through my mind a lot while on the day itself as well. Like, when I saw people like enjoying themselves, I thought to myself, like, this is what the rewarding thing is about planning an event. It's when everyone comes together. Like, that community aspect of live music is really important to me. And I like to go to events where you really can connect with other people with the same interests. So to put on an event that was like that was quite meaningful.
Yeah, it's a really good point. That like, I also feel like it's a trend in live music and music industry in general that everything moves towards community. Like, community is like a backbone of a lot of these things and club nights and a lot of these things surviving despite the economical difficulties that we spoke about. But it might be a bit challenging to create a community, you know, because for community you need people, right? What would be your advice? What would be your advice to people who, for example, don't know many people in music industry and want to organize an event like that and bring a community together?
That's a good question. I think for me, something that was really helpful was going to as many events as possible in the run up to the event. So because it was the summer, I was quite fortunate because I feel like there's a lot of music going on in the summer and a lot of like networking as well. Like, for example, I met you at a festival.
Really?
So yeah, that's how we first met. We bumped into each other at like another festival that was happening in London it was free and I just happened to go to it. But I was like on a kick of like going to as many live events as possible, especially ones where I knew there was like a networking element, because I felt like it's really important for me to like kind of touch base with other people in the music industry and know what their thoughts and feelings are and really like forge that personal connection with them, because I feel like it's very easy to just like create an Instagram account and sort of say that you're doing something, but unless you've actually spoken to someone about it in real life, there's a chance that they'll just scroll past it. Like, it was for me about like making, not just like selling my like festival to someone, but also becoming like a presence that they were aware of, and that I felt like we'd really connected. Yeah, and it was just really good. Like I went to like coffee meetings and all sorts of different things, like and like breakfasts or brunches, just like anything. Like I was scrolling Eventbrite and I was just looking for anything like free that was going on in my area, and it really like gave me the impression, like for the first time, I actually felt, you know, like there is a community of live music, or like of people interested in the music industry in London, but there's not like a real way to access that community. Like you have to actively search for it. So I did that searching, and then I would say that just find people with the same interests as you, whether or not you know them like from somewhere or you need to like look further. Like I was going to things by organizations that I'd never even heard of. But that can be really good. I definitely think it brought me out of my comfort zone, but I think it taught me a lot as well. And I'm grateful for all the people that I met. And it was nice to hear other people's experiences of the music industry as well. Because like your experience is only just like one experience of the industry. You're never going to know what other people have taken from it. So yeah, it was good to, I think also because I was sitting inside sending emails all the time, like it was nice to hear like the world outside, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So, okay, because I know some people might want to know this, but did anything go wrong during your festival?
In terms of like logistics, I think everything went very smoothly, which I was happy with. There were a few things I was scared of, one of which was that it would rain, because for festivals there's normally an outdoor element, and the venue that I chose was Signature Brew in Black Horse Road, which is like partially indoors, partially outdoors. So I thought, oh, well, it might kill the vibe, you know, if it rains. And also the DJs were stationed outside. So I didn't want them to get rained on either. But no, it didn't rain. And yeah, everything went quite smoothly. I think the only thing that you might find funny is that during one of the acts, there's an inflatable screen that there's a projector and you can project a graphic onto it. So each of the artists had their own graphic when they performed. And during one of these performances, the inflatable screen started deflating. But the credit to Sarah and Lucy, like, who were just amazing, like, the whole time. And they were like the showrunner and the sound engineer. And they, before I even noticed that the screen was deflating, they had already gone back to inflate it. Like, they were just so like on it. But you could see, like, as they were pumping it up, the screen like started like falling. And I was more concerned from like a medical perspective, because obviously I didn't want it to fall on the artist. But that's the only thing that like was close to going wrong. But I think it really helped to have like a team who is really like attentive the whole time. Like, any queries that I had, they were so like so thorough. And yeah, I think it really helps to be working with people who really care about your event and want it to succeed. So yeah, shout out to them.
100%.
Would you say there's something that you wish you've done differently?
I wish I'd had more time. But I think, I think what I would say is maybe like I got excited with because it was my first event. I think, like I mentioned earlier, like when I was budgeting, I definitely think I sort of made some decisions during the like budgeting process that I might not have made now that I have a bit more experience. Like, and I think that that's probably to be expected. But like, I kind of, if I could go back in time, I probably would have like split the money slightly differently, just to like maybe spend less money on flyers or spend more, like just redistribute it to get like to like maximize it. Because now like I'm in a situation where it's really just show to show. Like, I feel like if I just thought about it a bit longer at the time, I could have probably made it go further. But overall, like, I don't have any regrets. Like, I think it led me to meet some really amazing people, and it led me on to some really great opportunities. So overall, there's nothing in particular that I'd really change. But I'd probably get less excited about the fact that I'd got the grant and just spent it all.
Yeah, like, it's good to think about it. But obviously, when it's something like that, you don't have much experience in it, you will make mistakes. And I guess that's what you learn from. If you wouldn't make that mistake, you wouldn't learn from it, you know? So it's a good point.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, it was your first time, so quite impressive. So imagine I'm wanting to put on a festival. What tips do you have for me?
I think, well, connecting with people, like I said earlier, is probably one of the most important. Like, to get people to believe in an idea that you don't have any evidence for, it can be really difficult. So just getting people on board and really showing them that you are behind this and that you can be trusted. Even like, I remember one time, another tip I have, before I get into that anecdote, is that like, communication is really important, like with everyone at all stages of the process. Like, I think people take it for granted, and then they're like maybe wondering why some parts of their event went wrong. But I think everything can just be resolved if you communicate with everyone as early as possible about anything that you think is worth communicating. But also, like, keep your emails concise. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Like, you want to keep people in the loop, but you don't want to overwhelm them with information. So I would do my best to keep people updated, but I didn't want to like, flood them with irrelevant information. And like, when I was approaching artists as well, or like a lot of the artists, I think all but two maybe of the artists that I booked for the festival had managers. And I was very conscious that, like, managers are very busy people. They probably get a lot of offers for a lot of performances all the time. So I thought to myself, how can I best present this information in a way that interests them but doesn't overwhelm them? And I think that that's like a skill that maybe you have to hone. And I definitely had to hone it like across the summer, because at first I was like, oh yeah, we'll do this, and it was like a very long email. But very quickly I was like, why am I sending them this much information? So I cut it down and I made it as simple as possible. And I think that made it a lot more accessible, and I got a lot more responses actually. So if anyone's interested in planning an event, I would just say, like, be as concise as possible, be friendly, just like get good at emailing. I feel like emailing maybe is not the first thing you'd think of, but I think it's a really important skill when you're putting together an event. But yeah, what the anecdote I was going to tell you is that at the end of the event, one of the artist managers came to me and said, you have the best email etiquette of anyone I've ever met, like in the music industry. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. Like that was a really big honor. But she basically also said that she was like, oh, I might have believed that it was a scam if your emails weren't so well written. And I feel like that actually like encompasses what it means to start an event, like because you really need to, like, I feel like you need to work twice as hard to convince people that what you're doing is meaningful and special and like is going to go well, like, because people obviously, like, their reputation is also at risk if they go into it blindly. So you want to make them feel like you really have something to offer, and I think part of that is communication. So yeah, that's a tip I would give that maybe isn't talked about so much. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else I would say. Believe in yourself. I know, like, it's a bit cliche, but I think having to do this project at first, when I first got the grant, I honestly like had a moment of doubt where I thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to put on this festival. Like, in my head, it sounded like I could do it, but then I was faced with almost the enormity of actually having to do it, and then I thought to myself, can I really put on something of this scale? But because I feel like I was helped by the fact that the grant was over a certain period of time, so I had to do the project. Like, I didn't have a choice, and that helped me kind of come to terms with it. I was like, no matter what, I have to just do it, so I might as well do it. And then I gradually started to believe more and more in the idea the more that I did it. But I definitely think that if you're doing something on your own terms, you can definitely be paralyzed by that fear of like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if it's going to be good enough. And I think it's probably quite common with women as well. Like, I don't want to like typify women specifically, but I have noticed it a lot that I've met a lot of women who will be like, oh, I had this idea, but I was nervous that I wasn't like I wouldn't be able to do it, that I'm not good enough. And I feel like I was definitely like a victim of that. But I feel like it kind of it was in the ethos of the event that it eventually, you know, came to fruition. And I was like, yeah, I did it, and like everyone else did it as well. Like we all did something. But yeah, I think you can definitely be paralyzed by that if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm. So you need to set yourself limits, deadlines, you'd say.
I think it helps to have a deadline in mind. I think for me, it helped to have like that framework of the grant, because it was someone external, like not forcing, obviously, like youth music very nice, but like have that pressure of knowing that I had to complete the project by a certain time. So for me, it was like, I don't have time to be afraid. Like, I just need to get it done. But I think if it's just you and your own money and your own terms, and there's no one like telling you to do it, then it can be difficult to motivate yourself. But I think if you have an idea that you really believe in and you really think other people will believe in, you'd be surprised actually at how many other people will be into what you're like trying to do. So yeah, I think it helps to have someone else driving you. I don't think it's necessary, but yeah, I think it's a helpful form of discipline maybe. And I think that a lot of ideas probably don't come to light because they lack, well, not lack, but sort of like they don't have that like framework. So it can be a bit sort of abstract. But once you like sit down and really plan it out and say, I'm going to get it done by this date, that's when things start getting more organized and more like, yeah, more motivated.
Oh my God, it sounds so good. I love that quote. Like, you don't have time to be afraid, because it's so real. Like,
I think it's very common for students as well.
Congratulations. Like, it sounds like such a feat. Like,
yes, I cannot wait. Okay, we're coming to the next one. Look, you're coming as well to the next festival.
I was gonna say.
There's an event coming up. It's a smaller concert. It's in London, but if you're interested, April 2nd. Yeah, come along. Love to see
of course. Oh my God.
So apart from that, because like I definitely want to like, will you have one this year, like another festival?
I really wanted to. I think the main obstacle for me was budget and sponsorship, kind of because I had the grant. Like for last year's festival, I didn't really have to worry about that. But now I'm kind of continuing on my own path. it's a lot more, I have to make a lot more considerations, I think, of how I go about that. And for me, I'm kind of weighing it up. I think I'd like to not have to rush it. And because I'm still finishing my degree, if I want to do another festival this summer, that will still give me another time frame of like a few months. So I'm being a bit cautious maybe this year, but I'd like to bring it back at some point in the future where I'm in a state where I'm comfortable with it and I'm comfortable with the budget and I'm not stressed about it. And also, when I basically in January, I had the opportunity to do another show, like a concert, because I received basically like funding support from KCLSU, which is King's College London Students' Union. And at the time, I was looking for people to perform at that show. And so I opened applications because I kept getting DMs after the October festival. And everyone was like, when can I perform at the next one? And I was like, I'm just going to open a form. And if you want to perform, just put your details in the form and I will like call back or email back anyone who I think would suit the vibe for this like event. And that's like a rolling application. So anyone can put their details in at any time. And if I'm planning an event that like, say it's like a rock event that I want to do, then I'll look at all the rock artists who have applied and then make a decision based on that. But yeah, basically I opened the form and we received 26 applications in 24 hours. And that made me realize that, well, I thought to myself, well, if this many people want to perform, like if I only do one festival once a year, that almost doesn't feel like I'm doing, like not me, but that almost doesn't feel like enough to support all these people who want to put like fundamentally I want to put as many like female artists on stage as possible and also give as many like volunteers and photographers the opportunity to do their work as well. And it just felt like, I mean, for the festival I had 6 artists and 4 DJs, so that was 10 people, but I'd already received 26 applications. So I thought to myself like, why make them wait another year? Let me just like downsize and then I can do more frequent shows in different areas around London, and like really build on that sense of community a little bit more. So I would like to answer your question, I would like to go back to the festival format, but I'm also right now in a stage where I'd like to experiment a little bit more with smaller shows, to really give people more opportunities to perform and also, really build the, I don't know if I'd say brand, but like community and like visibility, I think is the word that I'd want, of the series. So yeah.
It sounds
nice.
Great. It sounds like a great plan.
Well, definitely. I mean, I'll definitely want to go to any events.
We will. Okay, maybe speaking about music now. Is it time to listen to your tracks?
Oh, I hope you like them.
Tell which one you want to go with first.
Shall we start with, well, what mood are we kind of in right now? I'd say like
I don't like
any.
surprise me.
Okay, let's go. Should we go for, should we choose randomly?
Yeah.
And then after you tell us about this track. Okay, look, you can choose.
Trying to postpone
Very nice, nice and electronic.
Wait, can I? Do you hear? There's like. What is that?
Oh, hold on. Oh, what is that? I'll fix it in post.
Okay.
It's always something goes wrong.
Yeah. Okay, could you tell us a bit about this track? Just what song it is and where did you
So
find
that
it?
was Closure. It has it's a remix. It's the Flexulent remix of Closure. Let me find the exact title because it's got about 4 different artists on it.
It's a long title.
It's the Flexulent and Bambi remix, and it also features Rara Gabor, I think, and someone else. I've got to wait for my phone to scroll. Brazy. So yeah, that's all 5 people on it. But yeah, I just think it's a really cool track. I like the electronic elements at the beginning. Yeah, and I think everyone brings something to the table with it, and I love that. I love tracks with really intricate production, like where it's clear that they haven't just like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with just singing to like a backing track, like it's whatever people have the capacity to do. But I just love being able to like unpick different choices that they've made in the sound and just these little intricacies. And I do find it to be quite an intricate track. So yeah, I like listening to it when I'm commuting and like thinking, oh, I like the way they've used this or that.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah, it's a really cool track. And also there's quite a bunch of producers watching us. And I think it might be also interesting because when you choose as a promoter, when you choose artists for your festival, what are your kind of thinking process? What do you think about how what makes an artist stand out for you?
That's
to
a
get
really good
invited?
question. I think for me, the major thing, well, there are 2 major things that I look for, maybe 3, 2.5. The 2 main things are the music and the image, and these have to go hand in hand. So they need to match. I need to feel like the artist's image really embodies the kind of music that they put out, like that they also match the image of Femmestival, which is like our target demographic is like essentially like 18 to 30-year-olds. So it's very like young and well, like youthful. I wouldn't necessarily say young, but like people who very like, I don't know, there's a certain image that you'll see when you go on the social media, like our Instagram account. Very bright colors, very bold. And I like to go for artists who kind of embody that. Like their music doesn't have to be bold, but I feel like they have to have a bold approach, you know, like they have to suit essentially the demographic that we are aiming for. But yeah, also that they like, I need to feel like they have a kind of uniqueness to their image. Like I feel that I need to have a reason that I would book them over someone else. And I need to feel like there's a reason that someone would go to their gig instead of someone else that sounds similar to them. Like I want to feel like they really have their own unique selling point. It doesn't have to be anything major, but I want to feel like they've carved out their own space in the live music industry. Because I feel like sometimes when you listen to like tracks on streaming services, like sometimes I'll listen to like those, like I'll just put on like Smart Shuffle or something and I'll just get what it throws at me. And sometimes I'll just listen and I really won't pay attention to who is singing. And sometimes like I feel like unless someone really has that like magnetic pull, like something that's really unique about them, like a lot of people just listen to playlists now and they don't really pay attention to the person behind the track. But I feel like you really need to have something unique to stand out to the listener, or like even when you're scrolling on social media, the same applies. Like why would someone pause and like look at your photo or your account instead of looking at someone else's? Like I like to feel like your music doesn't have to, I'm not looking for anything like polished, like multi-million-pound budget, but it just has to feel like it's purposeful and it's aimed at someone and it's really got a sense of like who they are as a person and as an artist, like whether or not it's their persona. Like it can be like a lot of artists I've interviewed have been like, oh yeah, when I perform, it's like my persona. It's nothing like me in real life, but at least I have the impression, okay, that you do have a persona, like that is something that you're bringing to the table. and something that's interesting about you. So yeah, I think the main thing for me is image. I'm really like big on people just maximizing their image when they like. I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like branding is really important to artists, maybe more important than artists themselves realize when they put their music out there. Like sometimes I'm so captivated by the way an artist presents themselves on social media that it encourages me to then listen to their music. Like it's not even like I've listened to their music first. I've actually gone and listened to it after I've seen like a really cool photograph, or a really cool like poster of a gig that they've got coming up. Like just something about them has drawn my attention even before I've even heard their track. So yeah, I think branding as an artist is important. Like if you have a specific niche, that's what I'm looking for. But I don't want to say, I don't want to make it sound like it's all about like branding, because there is a certain level of musical quality that I would say I looked for. Like I wanted it to sound like, it didn't even have to sound like polished. Like I mean, for example, I've just booked an artist called Mara Liddell. She's on the lineup for the April show, and she mixed a whole album on iPhone speakers. So it's not like I'm not saying like the production quality has to be like, you know, you have to go into a studio and mix it professionally and that kind of thing, because like a lot of people don't have the budget for that. But it just has to sound unique and like you, and like if I listen to this at a live music set, like I would know that it was you. So yeah, I think personality and just it being unique already puts people up in my kind of esteem and my rankings and like people who I want to book, compared to like if I was to get 5 applications from people who sound really similar, and then I'd have the moment of thinking like, how do I know who to pick out of this lineup? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think individuality is quite an important thing to me. Like no matter what you have, as long as like you own it, like that is really important.
Definitely, because so your festival and your other subsequent kind of gigs, let's say, they cover a wide range of genres, you'd say? Like what genres do you aim for, or just allow anything?
Yeah, so anything goes, essentially. Like I will, like in terms of the application form, like anyone can apply literally for anything, any genre. And I've had all sorts come in. Like I've had folk, I've had like people who play the violin, and people who like play like heavy metal. Yeah, and of course like DJs, it's very like electronic oriented. So yeah, like any and everyone can apply. But for me, I think I'd like to do as many genres as possible. Like I said, I want to give like a diverse group of people the opportunity to perform. So I would never close my mind to certain genres. Like for example, the gig I did in January, I mentioned it was like rock, but the one that I'm doing right now is like pop, maybe slightly R&B. The festival was more like pop and dance, I would say. So pop does come through, I guess maybe because it's the genre that I think is most exciting at the moment, personally. And it's also very diverse in itself. Like I don't think you can say pop music is this, because it's like so many different people doing pop in so many different ways. But yeah, I think yeah, any genre I would be happy to book, but that's what I've done so far, and I hope to do more different kinds of music in the future.
Definitely. Are you thinking of doing like more of these like themed events then, like rock event, pop?
That's how I like to think about it, because I don't want people to kind of pigeonhole Femmestival as one specific genre. I think the idea is to be maybe a bit more broad than that, and to like offer as many opportunities as possible for people to perform. Like even like I'd love to do even like a DJ only event, to be honest, and like have it just be like electronic music, for example. Like I really want to like experiment, I think, but it's just about finding the right place and the right people to do those things with. But yeah, pop is kind of where it's at for me at the moment. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I think there's some really exciting artists coming out of the scene. So, but for the next event, I have heard, recently I was approached by another kind of like hard rock artist who is very interested in doing a show, and I really like her music. So Maybe another rock one to come. Who knows? Maybe we'll alternate.
Spoilers. You get
Nice.
the exclusive info in
Yeah, you
here.
heard it here first.
So yeah, I really enjoy. So how many events have you done so far, actually?
So, Femmestival, the festival,
Yeah,
was
apart
the
from-
first one in October. And then there was one in January, which was in collaboration with the KCL Students' Union. And then in April is my third official one that is not in collaboration with anyone, unless anyone's listening and wants to. No. And then we'll see what happens after that. I think, yeah, like once I review my profit margins, well, it's not going to be a profit. Once I review my breaking even margins, then we'll see what happens with the... I'd like to do one every 3 months or so, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sounds good.
100%, 100%.
We have a little bit of time left. Should we listen to the second tune?
Oh yeah,
And then
I think
we'll move to the special offer.
thing. Yeah. Keep
and-
it
yeah,
locked.
a secret thing. And questions from the audience.
So you sent us the second track.
I did. Please
Yes.
enjoy Spicy by Esper.
You want my You want my I feel don't You want my Everybody in the whole house. You want my That's right. We don't touch it on the trick. Get to the That's right. 따분하게 했던 every day. We don't touch it on the trick. Everybody in the whole house. Take it from the top. Get to the Everybody in the whole house. You want my I feel You want my We don't touch it on the trick. Get to the 따분하게 했던 every day. We don't touch it on the trick.
Quite yet. No.
We're back now. We're back
Now
now.
we're back.
So that was very. I really like that track. I love the kind of breakbeat type stuff. We had another episode with Lorna. Shout out to her, and she put on like a remix of a Rosalia track, which was
Oh,
amazing.
awesome. What remix was that? Do you know?
It was the Polo Lily remix. Forgot the name. but it was very good.
I'll have to look it up. I like Rosalia. So.
Yes, same. So we were talking about noise curfews
Oh yes.
because we always talk about interesting stuff during these kind of quote unquote breaks. But how has been your experience with that? Because it's definitely a restriction.
Yeah, we have it in Cambridge like all the
Yeah.
time. Like most of the pubs after 11, they don't like music. They
Yeah.
don't like.
Noise curfews are, I think they're okay in my experience. I mean, they can be frustrating if you want to do an event which is exclusively with DJs. Like I was just talking about, like, because most live music venues which will will close at, or like stop you from playing music at 11 to 11:30. So if you want to have like a full night of DJs, it can be difficult to find a venue that will accommodate that. Sometimes you can request it, but it can be a bit of like a administrative hassle. But I think for me, the noise curfew maybe is less of an issue for me, just because I try to pay attention to when my events end. So because I know that a lot of women will be attending, I try to think, how are they going to get home? What kind of transport are they going to take? So I try to end the event slightly earlier than maybe a traditional live music gig would end. So then it's their kind of prerogative whether they stay in the bar and have a drink with their friends, or if they just want to go home early. Because when I was reviewing gigs, I remember being very conscious of that. Like sometimes the gig would end at 11 and I'd have to stay till the end because I was like writing about the performance, so I wanted to pay attention to it. But at the same time I was like, how am I going to get home? Like I have to take the overground home, so that stops running after a while, and it just made it stressful for me. So I thought, I don't want to cause anyone else that undue stress from one of my events. So I try to end the event earlier than the noise curfew anyway, so it's perhaps less of a bother for me than it would be for a traditional promoter who wants to end slightly later. But if you want to do like club nights or because I love like DJs and like electronic music, but it can be a bit difficult to organize with noise curfews. So yeah, there's pros and cons.
Maybe day parties should be something that you can look into.
I would love,
because people love also day parties.
but I think day parties are quite popular with students, and because like you have a bit more of a flexible schedule.
Yeah, but day party, like weekend day party.
Yeah, it's just the finding the right place to do it as well. Again, like I think is the issue, because like sometimes if you don't hire a normal like a venue in the evening, like they would expect for a live gig, they will charge you a slightly different rate, and that can get expensive. So yeah, I know a lot of what I've talked about is financial, but
it is relevant.
When it comes to London, I think it's probably, and I'm sure that Cambridge, I'm not totally certain what kind of venues you guys have here, but I'm sure that the same will probably apply.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it does get pricey. Even the bar tops from all the
Wow.
so the bar tops at all the venues, they range from 650 to 1,000, which is, again, we're not in London. Like it's in
Crazy.
Cambridge. The capacity is 150 people, 200. Like it's not even that massive, you know. But they want you to, and it's an event on Tuesday night, and they want you to hit a bar top of £1,000.
Yeah. What happens if you don't hit it? Do you have
You
to
have
pay
to
the
pay.
difference?
Yeah, you have to pay.
Yeah, they really like doing the bar tap thing. I don't know if it's popular in London,
Yeah.
but it's like, hey, you have to get up to this.
Yeah,
No,
the
at least
minimum
you don't have
spend
to
is
pay
crazy. Like a venue I inquired with not long ago had a really, really high minimum spend, and for the capacity, because obviously you have to take into account how many people are going to attend, and then out of the people who attend, how many people are going to drink. And I just was not confident that I didn't want to also encourage people to drink. Like that's very against the ethos of what my events. Like I'm not really a huge drinker when I go out to live music, especially if I go alone. Like I want to be alert, so I would not want to put my attendees in a position that they have to drink so I can not go into debt. So
100%.
it's an awkward situation, I think, but I'm sure that it works for certain events. It just, I don't think it suits mine.
Yeah, surely. No, I think it's very important to stay true to your initial idea, and I think a mission and ethos of, your events. That's what makes it stand out, and that's what makes it valuable for people, I think, to go to in community.
100%, 100%. I had like a bit of a last thing during your gig review days, because you said you noticed there wasn't a lot of women in the gigs. Were there any other things that you noticed?
They were not good.
Not good or
Bad.
I think Well, I just felt like there wasn't enough of an emphasis on safety, like, or like even not just like the location of the gig, because that's not always something you can control, especially when like, you know, you have to book a night and you want maybe a specific night. Well, then what venues are available on that night? Like, it can be difficult to control the area, but there are things that I felt weren't always controlled within the actual venue, and that was what kind of put me off certain events. Like, I'd go and I'd feel like there wasn't really anyone controlling the night. Like, there wasn't someone who you could really rely on if something went wrong. Like, as an attendee, like, you want to feel at least like someone's looking out for you a little bit. Like, and yeah, I went to a few events at all sorts of venues, like big and small. And sometimes, yeah, I just felt like the atmosphere was very, I don't know. I got the feeling sometimes that it was unsafe. Like, people would push each other and, like, I don't know, like, it was a very individualistic way to enjoy live music. Like, people would not really care about who was around them. Like, it's just all sorts of, it didn't happen all the time. Obviously, I did go to some gigs that I really enjoyed, but there were certain ones that I just remember standing there and thinking, like, either I don't feel safe, I don't feel comfortable, or I don't feel like cared for. Like, obviously there's a certain like limit to how much a promoter can care for the attendees, but I do think that there is a level of responsibility that comes with that. Like, with my events, I try to be very hands-on, and at least like a visual presence, so people know that I'm around if anything happens. Not that obviously I would probably get help from there, but at least I'm there as their first point of contact. But yeah, just I felt like sometimes safety wasn't the priority, and I thought to myself, like, we've kind of lost this sense of community that I think makes live music so special, because people are barely even talking to each other, which I don't know, maybe I'm just have a different idea of what live music should be like, but I really feel like if you're going to see an artist who you really love and other people really love, like, why would you not want to talk to everyone around you about that and like share that experience with them? And I felt like increasingly I was seeing it was becoming very individual, and I almost started to, I don't know, it started to upset me a bit, because I thought, if we're all enjoying this and we're all in the same place together, why do we not feel encouraged to like reach out to each other and talk to each other? So yeah, that's how I ended up trying to make a festival or like a concert series with community in mind, and like the idea that I've always thought of my events maybe with the idea that I want people to be able to just like start a conversation with the person next to them, and that will feel like comfortable and normal. So that's one thing I would say. Like, I felt like it was very, like, I went to a lot of gigs where it was very individualistic, very unsupervised. And yeah, I just felt like as a consumer as well, like, not even, I mean, to review gigs, I would get in for free, but I thought to myself, like, if I had paid for this gig, like, I don't know if I'd be happy having spent that money and being here and not having a great time, you know. So I thought, like, I think consumers also deserve more from live music. Like, I don't think it's enough to just put them in a room and say, all right, I'm done. Like, that's it. Sure. Like, enjoy your night. Like, so yeah, I feel like a more hands-on approach to live music is what we need.
Mm-hmm. It's really like, it clearly shows that you put a lot of thought into how, you know, it should be. And I think that's very good, because if that's how the future of live music looks like, I think we can be very hopeful. But it's nice to hear. Okay, should we move to we have last bits of minutes left.
Let's think we had
the questions from the crowd. I send you some. Yes, you can start. Look, you can.
Let me pull it up.
I'm a bit nervous, actually. I don't know. I didn't know that you asked the crowd any questions. So.
All right. I want to organize a 3-day drum and bass event at my hometown, but I don't know how to find artists. It's also quite far. How do I make people commute so much? Please help. What? Okay.
Did this person say where they live? Where their hometown is?
I don't think so.
It just said it's far.
It's just far.
Far from where? is what I would ask. But I think encouraging people to commute can be made easier if you show them that the route is easy. Because for me, like, I remember being nervous before I even went to Reading Festival to review that, because I was like, how am I going to get here from North London into Reading easily and with as minimum like cost and changes, also train changes as possible. So I think if you like outline a route and say, oh, if you're living in, I don't know, I'm going to assume you live like in the Midlands in like the countryside or something. If you live in London and you want to get up here, like, this is how you can do it. This is how you can take the minimum amount of trains possible. This is how much it's going to cost you. I think at least outlining people's options, like maybe from the major cities or something. Like if your target audience is in London and yet you're outside of London and you want to get people to move to you, you can at least say, okay, if you're coming from London, you take this train, then this train, and it's going to cost you a total of this. And then people are like, okay, well, it's not that bad. But I think when you leave people to their own devices and trying to figure out how to get there on their own, they might feel a bit more nervous to spend the money on the ticket and then think, oh my God, I have to pay £40 to get all the way up there. Another thing you can make them more encouraged by is value for money. Like, they're not going to mind that they have to pay maybe £20 to get a train if the quality of your event is just is enough to encourage them to go. Because like, I think experiences like that are invaluable. So if you convince them that that experience is worth way, way more than that £20 for a train ticket, then they're going to be like, oh, it's just £20, it's fine. And then the other question was how to book artists. So essentially, the way I found artists, which might, I don't know how many artists listen to this podcast, but if you're listening, please check your emails and also make sure your Instagram account is up to date, because Instagram was the major way that I found artists. Like, I was looking on there like crazy. And it shocked me, honestly, how many people don't put their contact information in any like reasonable view. Like I was like digging into like the trenches of Facebook to find people's email addresses, and like no one should. I did that because I was passionate about finding artists. But I don't think anyone should have to do that, and I don't think bigger companies have time to do that. So that's my tip for artists. But anyway, from a promoter's perspective, I was using Instagram a lot to kind of discover artists. Like I mentioned, like image is quite important to me. Or like the way that artists brand themselves and the way that they mobilize their social media is important. So like Instagram for me was like the epitome of all of those things. Like, what kind of fan base do you have and how do you get them to engage with your content? And like that can be quite helpful just to see. So like, and also you can see who's following who, and then you can go down this massive rabbit hole of different artists. So I definitely don't think there's a shortage of artists. The only thing I'd say is if you live far away from wherever you live, it can be difficult to convince them maybe to make the trek. But if you cover their travel costs, it's not really a big issue because it's still a performance opportunity at the end of the day. So yeah, just reach out, usually via email if they have one. I would not recommend Instagram DM because normally those will get ignored. And yeah, just send them an email, say, and be very like clear about it. Like, this is my event. This is when it's going to be, at what place, how long it's going to last on each day. If it's 3 days, like, oh, it's going to be 8 hours a day. And then just like give them the most information you can in the shortest email possible. And then, yeah, see what happens. Hopefully they'll get back to you. Good luck.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, it's definitely good advice.
Oh, should I say the other one?
Yeah, you can move on to the next one. And then I have the final one from us.
Who said it? I have no experience in the music industry, but I want to work in events, organize parties. How do I enter? How do I take the first step?
That's a good question. And I say that because I mentioned earlier I was doing a degree, but I didn't say what it was in. I'll now reveal. The big reveal is that my degree is actually in comparative literature. So it's absolutely nothing to do with events whatsoever. I had no background, either professional or otherwise, in events before I launched this festival, apart from the fact that I was reviewing them. And even something like that, like, you don't have to be on the promotional side of things to be able to get experience in events. Like, maybe look for different angles at which you can approach them. For me, it was really helpful to get a grounding in events first by just reviewing them and seeing, like, obviously when you review something, you think what's going well, but also what's not going well. And that gave me a really good basis for understanding how to put on my own event, like we mentioned earlier. So I think if you're interested in it, maybe just going to events and seeing how other promoters operate those events can make you feel more comfortable putting on your own event. Because if I had to go into it having never gone to a concert before, it would be a really big undertaking. But yeah, I would say try and get there from maybe a different perspective first. Even just as an attendee, like try to go to as many events as possible and see how different people operate their events. And then I think it's kind of about realizing that it's not as daunting as it first seems to put on an event. I think the main three things are venue, artists, and promotion. And really, when you like boil it down to those three things, like you can really do anything with that basis. Like I think you said you wanted to do parties. So yeah, I'm imagining sort of like a club night is what I think you mean. But yeah, like as long as you can get the venue down, get your artists in the room, and then get people to come and watch, like then you're set. Like I think before I started working or like freelancing in events, I thought to myself, oh, it must be so difficult to get everyone in one place. But I think as long as you have like a good strategy for going about it, and even that is just like being good at communicating with people and having a clear plan, like you can't really go wrong. Yeah, just be brave about it, and don't feel like your lack of experience means that you can never break into events, because I have often thought that, and doing it myself has made me realize, no, like you don't need to have like a formal background. You just need to have an idea and like a strategy, and that is more than enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's very solid. I hope that person now knows what to do.
I'll take that advice.
And book the venue first.
Venue. Okay, and the last question is from us, our thingy. Okay, so as usually like we ask this DJs, but then if you're a promoter, I'm gonna ask it about the artist. What is your artist ick?
Ooh. So like, as in something I see in artists that I don't like, essentially. Yeah. Oh, that's a really
something
good question.
Something that just makes you like you know, ick, like.
Always those people.
Okay. I don't know if this really is a good answer, but I get the ick when I think about artists who don't appreciate their fan base, because I feel like interacting with your fans like is really, really crucial. Like also for me, from a promoter's perspective, like I want to see that you have fans that will come to your shows and who will support you. And so if you are like actively like turning your fans away from you and saying like, no, I don't care about you, or like, I'm so much better than all of you. Like, I feel like sometimes artists can have a superiority complex, and that can be really, really difficult to deal with as a promoter. And so, yeah, like I would just say like, be down to earth, please. Like, I try to see everyone as like just another person. Which I think is a helpful attitude in the music industry, where you can often get like blinded and starstruck by all like the glamour of it. But yeah, I get the ick when artists feel like they're like a superior to you, because at the end of the day, we're like all going towards the same goal, and I'm trying to help you get like to where that goal is. So yeah, be nice. Be nice to your fans. Be nice to the people you work with. Yeah, that's all really.
100%.
Nice. Yeah, we support that. People have been mentioning that a lot. Like, just be nice. Just people, please be nice. Is that so hard?
100%. 100%. I guess sometimes we're also scared that people are mean, but we never, like, if we've never talked to someone, we're scared to talking to them because we think that, oh, maybe they're like gonna be rude. What would you say about that? Would you say people in general are nice?
I say that like for every bad person you come across, you'll probably come across 10 people who like what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So like you might meet a few people on your journey, and I definitely have, like, who are not really thrilled with what you're doing for one reason or another. Actually, I can tell you that I discovered that Femmestival had made its way onto a men's rights subreddit on Reddit. and they were not happy, although they didn't properly read the festival description, so they didn't realize that men can go. So yeah, like for anyone listening, men can go to any of the events. Like it's like the tagline is it's an all-female festival where all are welcome, and I really mean that. Like everyone is welcome. But basically they thought that I was like probably standing at the door like banning men from entry, so they got quite heated about it. But yeah, I would say like there's always going to be someone who doesn't like what you're doing, I think is my point. And everyone's going to have their own motivations, and I think the way that's helpful for me to think about it is like I know that my intentions are good, and that like everything kind of happens for a reason and comes together for a reason, and whatever happens is for the best. And like the people who I did end up working with for this festival have been like really kind and really believed in it. And at the end of the day, that's the people that you want to work with. So even if you encounter people on your journey who like discourage you or like put you down or say mean things, like you don't really want to, like, you don't need to be part of their lives, and they don't need to be part of yours. And there's always going to be someone like that. So I'd say like I've become better, and I think it helps to know like not to take things as personally, because sometimes it's just your idea that they don't like. It might not be that they don't like you, they just don't like the execution of it or something else. But yeah, don't let that hold you back from interacting with people, because you can really make some positive connections from that. And really, yeah, you can meet people who you never even expected to meet just because you stepped outside your comfort zone. So yeah, I mean, if they're mean, you can think about that afterwards, but don't let the fear of them being mean stop you from reaching out in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very relevant. Okay, I think it's time to wrap it up.
Wait, we have an announcement.
Yeah, exactly. It's time to wrap it up. But before that, Talia, mic to you. We have a special announcement. Yes, Talia's going to announce for you.
So yeah. So for our upcoming Femmestival showcase on April 2nd, it's at 7:30 p.m. In Servant Jazz Quarters in Dalston, which is in London. And for anyone listening to this podcast, feel free to get 10% off your ticket using the code UPAndComing. So yeah, please do come along. I would love to see you there. And you can get tickets through the link in the Femmestival Instagram bio. So that's at femmestival.uk. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Oh wait, hold up. Where can people find you now that you've mentioned the Instagram?
Find me or the festival?
Anything.
So yeah, the festival can be found on mostly on Instagram. So again, I'll repeat, at femmestival.uk. The profile photo is pink. There are 2 Femmestivals, so just so you get the right one. And on Facebook and LinkedIn, although I use those admittedly a bit less. And also there's a Femmestival website, so that's www.femmestival.co.uk if you're browsing. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Very nice.
Nice, thank you. And where people can find us?
I always have to say
Luke
this.
specializes in this, so I'll
Yes. At cam.upandcoming on Instagram and Spotify thing.
Yes, I promise. I will set up Spotify. Probably by the time this episode is out, it's going to be already set up.
Yeah. And YouTube and some others. Yeah, mostly Spotify and YouTube. Maybe
Instagram.
TikTok, Instagram.
Okay. Yes. Thank you all for coming, Talia. We loved it. We hope it was really helpful for all of you listening. And yeah, we cannot wait. We wish you a lot of luck for your events, and we hope a lot of
Really
people
enjoyed
watching
it.
are going to come as well.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you there. Let me know if you've come from this podcast.
Let her know. So yeah.
Yes, wrap it up.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.